Dishonored is one of those games that if you were to explain it to someone who hasn't gamed before, they'd either be absolutely ecstatic or completely terrified. To be able to do essentially anything in regards to killing people and being a peeping Tom makes this one of the greatest games of all time in my insignificant opinion. That being said, I have only completed the game twice, once when I was younger and still making peanut butter, jelly, and Dorito sandwiches while playing on the Xbox 360, and once here recently, where we aim to kill absolutely everything. Whether or not you choose to be an assassin or some mystical teleporting shadow, Dishonored has several different tools for your toolbelt, between sending in a gust of wind, possessing your opponents, or completely altering how time passes. There are a near endless amount of possibilities in regards to murder and completing your objectives. Today, however, we use another method, one that involves the very beast that set the plague across these lands: rats. Using the Devouring Swarm power, we can summon a pack of rats that nibbles on people's feet until they die. The only rule for this run is simple: if we were to commit a hostile action that would directly kill an enemy, we need to do it with rats. Without further ado, get on your thigh highs and let's get ready to shake, rattle, and roll. Taking a cute little boat ride and appropriately touching a little girl, I meet with the Empress to deliver a letter. Having a little bit too much fun getting used to the controls, I get absolutely topped by the assassins on a nearby rooftop. Fortunately, Arcane Studios took pity on me and decided that because I wasn't good enough to complete the tutorial, they felt like I would figure it out eventually. Unfortunately, I did not, and the Empress died. As a result, I was blamed for the event and immediately put into a Skyrim jail. My first death resulted as I forgot how to crouch, but my second attempt more than makes up for it. By knocking out the guards and not killing them, we justified that my rat babies would be accepting the offering presented to their bosom. I hide the bodies as best as I can and pick up any loot before subduing another guard and stealing his key for the nearby door. The same level of stealth continues as I delve deeper into the jail, collecting the explosives left by a friend as I go. This guy in particular did not need to be subdued, but I felt like doing so anyway, just so I could hear him gurgle. Yeah, that's right. Climbing up some pipes to get over a checkpoint, I subdue the two guards and watch the pretty explosion, before executing the worst dolphin dive in history. While in the sewers, I summon an army of rats by the power of the stank in my ass. Their power is remarkable, and something that I hope to attain more of in the future, but until then I am sworn to serve them and feed them their meal. Picking up tools that we would never use, I successfully slide under a tripwire and go for another swim. Rather than talking with my rescuer, I take another dip as I grab the hidden chest next to the piranhas. Afterwards, I talk with Samuel the boatman, aka the cutest man I've ever laid eyes on. He takes me for a ride, one that I quite enjoy as I feel the water beneath the boat shift. This ultimately takes me to Havelock, one of the leaders of the Loyalists. Piero, their craftsman, ends up making me a mask and allows me to purchase a few supplies. The only one that I purchased at the very start here is an increase in bone charm capacity. When I took a little bit of a nap, things ended up looking rather weird, as if I was roofied again. Believing that I could fly, I fell multiple times in an attempt to avoid using Blink. I went into this challenge knowing that I would have to, but I was curious to see how far I could get without using other powers. It turns out that you can't get very far at all. Grabbing my first rune, and I decided to save it up for the Devouring Swarm. When I get back to my room and real life, I stock up on all the bone charms I can, and equip a few. The two that are most notable are Gutter Feast, which allows me to consume white rats for mana, as well as White Rat Friend, which does exactly what you'd expect. Don't worry, I have a few black rat friends too. Grabbing another rune at the far end of the map, I return to Havelock, purchased another rune from Piero, and obtained Devouring Swarm for the cost of 3 runes. Samuel lets me ride on the oar, whatever that means, and I strangle a man. This leads me to talking with an old lady who is being attacked by various nefarious men. Not knowing how these rats function, I struggle to get my first cast off, and even when I do, I die almost immediately. This process repeats multiple times, and each time I learn a little bit more about how they function, and how devastating they can be. With us only having the first rank, I can only reliably kill 2 people, meaning that I ended up having to strangle one of them, and then have the rats deal with the other 2. Knowing that this tactic wasn't going to work long term, I decided to immediately try to obtain as many runes as possible to unlock the second rank. Fortunately, Granny Rags gives us another rune, as well as a mission to obtain more. I find a random guy in an alleyway who sells me the recipe to make more Sokolov's Viagra before I break into Dr. Gavani's offices. Looking into his secret room, I pick up the rat plague viscera and start making my way towards the old Dunwall distillery. My goal here was to poison the distillery for Granny Rags, so I shoved the rat into the distillery before accidentally being spotted and having to rely on my rats for a distraction. They do a great job, and eventually I'm able to get back to Granny Rags, where I obtain 2 runes. One in the back room, which I'm not sure I should have obtained if I'm allying with her, and another on the 2nd floor underneath of the boat. Climbing past the walls of light, I obtain another rune when I knock out another guard. Before sneaking into the square, I decide to spend my points to grab Devouring Swarm for the 2nd time to summon a larger orgy of rats. After rescuing Martin and strangling a few people, I decided that my rats have had enough time off and used them to deal with a couple of overseers. It's actually kind of crazy how effective the 2nd rank of Devouring Swarm is, as even if they are attacked with a grenade, they still manage to hold form and kill over 3 people. Getting to the office of the High Overseer, I clear out some of the lower sections with the help of my cutie patooties. This theme continues as I make my way upstairs. Doing a little bit of light reading on a new kink, I snag the rune available in the meeting chambers before watching High Overseer Campbell poison Captor Kurnow. Afterwards, I brought his body into my petite arms, and I took him over to be branded. I know that these parts of Dishonored have been around for ages, but I can't help but appreciate the variety and the viewpoint of this all being dedicated to rats. A certain part of me feels as though that I am in Ratatouille, and that there is a rat holding the mischievous hand that summons more rats. Once outside, I pick up another rune and a bone charm before dropping down into the water below to go see Samuel yet again. Piero seems pleased by the fact that I'm not dead and offers me another bone charm upgrade as well as a few elixirs for when things get a little bit dirty, like my martini. Havelock then sends me down into the sewers where I come across Weepers. Originally, I tried to tackle these foes with none other than our cute fluffy boys, but unfortunately, rats do not kill them. Reloading a save, I find that I can knock them out instead, and that I don't need to kill them after all. Heading back over to see Havelock, I hit up Pendleton about the next mission. He essentially says that I should kill his brothers, and make sure that I do it in an interesting way. Samuel lets me ride with him back to the location that we were just at in the Distillery District. This time, however, I bolt past the Wall of Light and take a right. The whole idea of this mission is to not only deal with the Pendleton brothers, but to also retrieve our dear Emily. In order to do this, I start by hiding some bodies in various places, as well as picking up the 2nd rank of Blink. This, combined with my dexterous fingers, allows me to sneak inside where I find Emily almost immediately. Unfortunately, I just can't take off with her, but I go through the motions and have her wait by a door that we need a key for. I ask a lady really nicely for the key as well as checking her bookkeeping to make sure that it's up to snuff. It just so happens that in this investigation I learn the location of Morgan Pendleton and Curtis Pendleton, Mr. Pendleton's 2 brothers. From what I have learned from our Mr. Pendleton, my rats do not deserve to be in the same room as such filth, so I accidentally sneezed on a valve that failed the challenge before dispatching 2 nearby guards with a wall of tasty meatballs. One of the aspects about Dishonored that I love is the dialogue that you can eavesdrop on. Many players would miss these interactions if you were too quick, but fortunately I am patient enough to listen to all of the dialogue available. While I may have just lied to you, my rats make up for the bulk of my people skills. Blinking my way out of dodge, I meet back up with Emily and say hello to Granny Rags, who is looking like a spring chicken. Somehow, Emily manages to beat me back to the boat, and it isn't long before Samuel and I set off with the future Empress. Returning to our base of operations, I talk to Havelock before buying a few more things from Piero. Unfortunately, there aren't really too many items that I can purchase, given that many of them are gear upgrades, but I can certainly consume various elixirs and more bone charm upgrades. Pendleton is absolutely ecstatic and mortified at the same time given the fact that both of his brothers are now dead, but our mission is still not done, even with saving Lady Emily. Samuel takes me to the bridge. This location in particular was known for many of my deaths in the last playthrough, but today I'm feeling a little bit more confident in my abilities. It's crazy how much power a strap-on holds. The whole reason why we're here is to abduct Sokolov, a scientist that should be able to help us infiltrate further into the enemy ranks. That being said, I'm still trying to collect as many runes and bone charms as I can to be able to get any upgrades. This leads me to blinking down in the enemy territory as I strangle one guard and summon a swarm of rats to slurp up both of the bodies. Unfortunately, the screams of various enemies are apparently attractive to others and require many guards to be sent to your location, like they want to talk to you about your car's extended warranty. What this means is that although you could be stealthy when casting Devouring Swarm, you need to be in a really good hiding spot to be able to ensure that you remain hidden. Otherwise, an army of guards will find you and touch your booty. Grabbing an elixir and a bone charm, I start making my way through the next area. I end up finding a safe which I hand the password to before I continue looking around for more runes. You may be curious as to why I mentioned that this area in particular was the cause of many of my deaths, and it is because of the shocking nipple that kills you anytime you even get remotely near it. This time I decided to handle it by blinking myself off into the water below, where I looped back around and completely avoided it. Why I even thought in the first place that I needed to disarm this is mind-boggling, but I'm glad that there are options that you can just avoid everything like I do with most of my problems in life. I decided to skip much of Sokolov's house, but the guard outside did face my fury, or should I say, fury. I peacefully knocked out Sokolov, grabbed his rune, made a few elixirs, and rushed his unconscious body back to Samuel. Havelock is once again pleased with me. I feel like our relationship is going in a great direction, and I look forward to seeing more of him in the future. But until then, I have a chat with Emily, catch a pervert, become a pervert, and torture Sokolov with his fear of rats. He eventually tells me about Lady Boyle, so before you can sit down and analyze the parts of your life that you regret, I blink into the estate and ask around for some information. Someone tells me that they wish that they could go upstairs, so I do just that. This allows me to obtain a few paintings, play with the tub, and learn that the Lady Boyle that we are looking for is in fact Lydia, and she is in a red dress. With that in mind, I blink downstairs, summon a pile of rats to bring upon her demise, and bolt outside to return to Samuel's boat. For my trouble of not murdering everyone, I obtain a rune on the table of my bedroom. Small touches like these really make me appreciate Dishonored. A little note goes a long way to make sure you tell your loved ones that you appreciate what they do. Samuel agrees when he looks at my crotch, and I start the mission to kill the Lord Regent. Like most missions, Samuel takes his boat through the water to get to the start of the map. What's different about this one in comparison to the other map is that you are immediately thrown into doing a lot of parkour, something that I'm bad at in any game that I play. Eventually I get to the roof and began running across before getting up on the gazebo that the Empress was killed in. This takes me many attempts, and I'm not proud of the fact, but as someone with erectile dysfunction, this isn't the first time that I've had to do things multiple times to get a successful outcome. After I grab the rune in the chest by his bed, I strangle him so he won't scream when the rats eat his body alive. After eating the rats that ate the Lord Regent, I leave through the main entrance and blink past the way that I came in order to return to Samuel. As I return to the Hound Pit's pub, something changes. The drink that I have is a little bit sour, and as I head to my bedroom, I began feeling a little bit woozy before smacking into the ground. After fading in and out of consciousness and learning that I was poisoned by Havelock, I see down, throw my items into a pit of nothingness. Waking up to someone who looks a lot like my ex-girlfriend, I bust my way out with a few bricks before grabbing some supplies and blinking to my gear. While it may seem that it would be a bit pointless to grab some of the stuff, the main reason why is that I wanted plenty of elixirs for my fight with Dowd. Unfortunately, Dowd has many men between him and me, so I'm forced to sneak around and grab various pieces of the puzzle to be able to get to him. With a few well-placed blinks, and utilizing the fact that the assassins don't scream when rats eat them alive, I'm able to stock up on all the elixirs that I can carry and get to Dowd himself. The most interesting part about this fight is the fact that I seemingly couldn't utilize rats when he had slowed down time. This left me trying to calculate when he was going to slow time in order to try to summon the rats beforehand. Eventually I was able to get a hold of his lifeless body and bring it to the sewers, where my rats would eat his corpse. The sewers were dangerous with various weepers and the spitty thingamajigs being able to have their way with me in more ways than one, but eventually I was able to return to the Hound's Pit pub. Filled with the anger of betrayal, I throw any notion of stealth out the window and blink to the second story, where I essentially throw all the soldiers into choke points and let my rats feast upon their bodies as they scream and die. Afterwards, I read a sweet little letter from Emily that tells me exactly where Havelock is going: King Sparrow Island. Launching the flare gun, I meet up with Samuel, and he takes me to where Havelock is at, where Emily is at. While attempting to get past one of the many walls of light in this area, I knock a man unconscious and take out the whale oil that is powering it. It isn't long before I'm in, and I start blinking my way up the walls to get closer to my goal. Once at the gatehouse, I decided to go underneath the bridge with a pylon above it before climbing up the bottom of the elevator shaft that leads up the lighthouse. The elevator itself was locked, so I stole a key off a guard and headed up to where I killed the pissing guard with rats. While this was largely impulsive, it was nice to be able to do one last final hurrah of murder. Breaking into Havelock's headquarters, I summon rats and watch as Havelock writhes in pain. I greet Emily with my moderately clean hands and beat Dishonored with rats.